Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. This is Business for Breakfast, the show that will be coming to your screen every Friday here on Camnet TV. The topic of discussion today is debt management and youth inclusion in the 2022 national budget. I know everyone was excited about the budget, and we had our government, the first budget that the United Party for National Development Administration announced, and it has received a lot of reactions from stakeholders. And today we'd also like to dig in analyzing the budget, but in relation to the debt, as well as the inclusion of the youth in the budget. We know that youths are the leaders that we want to see take over certain positions. We've seen where people are crying around saying youth are being sidelined in appointment and everything. So we are just going to get discussing the national budget, the debt management, and the youth inclusion. In studio today, I am joined by Mr. Mwape Msonda, who is an accountant and a youth activist, who's going to help me discuss the topic in detail. Mr. Mwape, just say good morning to the viewer.
Thank you very much, and good morning, viewers. It's my pleasure to be here. I think it's the first time I'm coming for a program, so I'm grateful that you have chosen to invite me. And I promise that we'll be able to analyze what we can for the benefit of everyone in the country.
Okay, thank you so much. So this is Business for Breakfast, but before we get to chew the meat, let's go for the morning post.
Good morning. Welcome to our morning boost in Camnet, wherever you're watching us from. If your hubby is in bed, tell them that they need to wake up. We are here to do a workout. And guess what? I have a special friend of mine. She's here to work out with me. Good morning, Chola.
Good morning, Isaac.
Great. Welcome. You ready?
Yep.
We're going to do a warm-up and then a workout. Let's go jam. Let us know where you're watching us from. If you're on Facebook, you're welcome. So we're going to do this for a minute. How was your night?
Boring.
Is it? You're going to boost your morning this morning, right?
Oh, yes.
Awesome stuff. Let's go. 4, 3, 2, marching. Let's go, Team Camnet. Let's go, let's go. It's a warm-up for a minute. We'll just do that. Very simple, very basic. Let's go. Keep marching. And 4, 3, 2, step touch. There you go. Let's go. And we're beginning our workout soon. 4, 3, 2, knee highs. Stay at it. Let's go. Keep on the knees. What else can we give them? Punches or 2 knees? What do you suggest?
Let's go our legs.
Our legs?
Yep.
Okay. So what do you think? We go back to step touch?
Yes, please.
4, 3, 2, step touch. Go. Hands up. Let's go. I think we can give them hamstrings. What do you think?
Let's press.
Okay. 4, 3, 2, hamstring, go. 1 each. Let's go, Team Camnet. 1 each. Oh, we need to pull some stuff. Let's go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Stay there. 4, 3, 2, marching. That is your cool down now. If you want, you can quickly sip some warm water. And there we go. think we need to throw some punches.
Let's do this, Camnet!
You know the one we're gonna do?
Okay.
We're gonna do a side punch. We'll be trotting with a punch. You remember that one?
Yes.
4, 3. We'll go with the right one actually. 4, 3, 2. Let's go. This is doable. What do you think?
I'm dying.
Ooh, I don't think so. Let's go. Push. Push. Let's punch into our day. Ooh. 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 Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. The other side. She's sipping some water. Now that's the reality of the workout. Sometimes you are doing the workout and you just have to go and sip some water. So there you go. Let's go. 4, 3, 2, and marching. So now I deliberately brought in my friend so that you see how it goes. Sometimes in the middle of a workout, you feel like you need to stop, drink some water. And that's what she did. Shola, let's go. Water break is over. Woo. Let's go. Match, 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 match. And 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's go. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. On the sides. 1, 2. Keep going. Let's go. 1, 2. And 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's go. Match, 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 match. Awesome workout, Team Camnet. Say something on our Facebook page. Let us know where you're watching from. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you next week. Thank you so much. This has been Isaac Matsa, your presenter. Remember, always to tune into Camnet TV.
Thank you for still staying with us. This is Business for Breakfast, and I am your host for today, Prudence Tota, and I have been joined by my co-host who's going to greet the viewer, Miriam.
Hi, Prudence. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. It's a busy Friday.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. I'm sure people are excited.
Exactly.
Going for work, knowing it's a Friday and there's a weekend that is coming up. But just to keep you talking, today we are discussing debt management and youth inclusion in the 2022 national budget. I hope you've been vibed by the boost that we just had. And as we keep talking, I introduced my guest earlier, Mr. Mwape Musonda, who's going to help us discuss the topic. But before we get to discuss, let's just look into some of the facts about the animal that we are discussing today. So as at end of June 2021, Zambia's total public debt was equivalent to 26.44 billion kwacha, excluding interest arrears, and equivalent 26.96 billion kwacha, including interest arrears. The end June 2021 exchange stock, including interest arrears of the central government debt, guaranteed state-owned debt enterprise loans, and non-guaranteed state-owned enterprise loans, amounted to 12.91 billion United States dollars, 1.57 billion United States dollars, 197.7 billion respectively. But what we saw is when the Minister of Finance, Tumbekom Sokotwane, announced the budget, the debt, the stock of the external debt was increased to 14.48 billion as at end of September 2021. So let's get to discuss. Mr. Msonda, our guest for today. What would you say, to begin with, is the best way to manage the debt that we have in the country?
as we begin our topic, I think I would want to bring it home, even as we discuss. First of all, I want us to look at a personal level. If you are in a situation where you owe, you have this big debt, what are some of the steps that you are going to take in order for you to settle that debt and be able to continue with your lifestyle? Because in as much as you owe, but you won't stop eating, you can't stop a lot of necessities.
Exactly.
You have to have shelter, you have to have maybe probably your children need to go to school. All those things are not going to wait for you to pay the debt. If you rent, all those things, you have to be able to undertake them.
Exactly.
So when we bring it home at personal level, when you see that you are in so much debt and you are under pressure, I think some of the steps that almost each and everyone take is you have to first of all look at what is the actual amount that you owe.
Okay.
How are you able to, can you manage to pay off that debt? And in which period can you manage to pay off that debt? And then from there, then you begin to prioritize which one should come first, which one should go first, which debt should you pay first, which one can wait. Then from there you engage with your creditors, those who you owe money, and explain to them your situation. I mean, so even if the creditors take you to the police, as long as you go to the police and you are able to explain to them, no, I can't pay because I don't have.
Yes, exactly.
You can't. If you don't have, you can't pay. So you can now engage with the creditors, and then from there talk with them. And I'm sure from the creditors' point of view, what they want is to see that actually you have commitment, that you are willing to pay, even if you don't have, but you have the commitment to be able to pay. So when we bring it to our country's situation, it's not very different. I think one of the mistakes that we make in applying these principles, in life, is that we want to separate our private lives to what is prevailing on the national scale. The moment we begin to practically address these things, the way we address them in our lives, I think then we'll begin to win. So even where we are at the national level, you first of all go through the same processes. How much do we owe? Which debt can we liquidate? Even in the debt, there is some which are priority. Those which have got very high interest, you prioritize. And if you can't pay, we engage now with the creditors, like we have done in the past. We have been engaging and try to see, no, we can't pay this one. When can we pay? And take those steps so that we can get to a point where we can pay the debt and still continue to lead our lives.
Okay, yeah. But Mr. Msonda, sometimes we see a situation where when you're negotiating, you don't have resources. When the agreement that you made, you don't fulfill, so you ask for an extension of the paying period. But what that means also is that you're going to pay more money than what was necessary at that time. Do you think negotiating for a long-term process of paying up the money is the right way to go in a country that already has?
Yeah, looking currently that we have limited resources as a country.
You know why the reason why you fail to pay your debt is because you don't have the money in the first place. If you had the money, just like I think during this discussion I'll base it so much on personal level so that we simplify it for everyone to understand and read it. It's just like on a personal level. If I had the money, because if I owe 5,000 kwacha, and then that 5,000 kwacha I owe is Karowa, Karowa, it's the money keeps on building, the interest keeps on building. So if I have the money immediately, I would want to liquidate it. But if I don't have the money, what choice do I have? I know that it's going to cost me more, but if extending the period is the only way, I can manage to settle that debt and at a cost, then that's the only way I'm going to do it. So I think even where we are as a country, the reason why we have not paid the euro, like the euro bond, which is due next year, the $750,000 million dollars. The reason why we probably would want to reschedule is because we don't have the money.
Okay.
If we had the money, then we would definitely pay. Last year we were supposed to pay some interest. We didn't pay because we didn't have the money.
So can we say extending can be the solution right now at the moment?
Yeah, extending. It's not that we have a choice. It's not that we have a choice. We just have to engage our creditors. I think government has been engaging with our creditors. I think the previous regime engaged with our creditors, and I think even though they didn't reach conclusions, but some of them they did. The only way is to extend, because we are already defaulting. I mean, we have defaulted on 2 payments already. Okay. We defaulted. I think there was a payment in November. We defaulted. There was a payment in somewhere in July. We defaulted. Yes, okay. So meaning we have to extend the period. Okay. So we have no choice but to extend. Of course, some of the creditors, I think there was no cost on the extension like the Chinese. There was no cost on the extension. But for the commercial lenders that we like, for the euro bonds, then definitely there's a cost. So we have no choice but to extend the period because we don't have the money to pay.
Okay. Currently we are seeing the government negotiating with the IMF in order to get the IMF bailout. Do you think this is the right direction to go?
The IMF, interesting, huh? You know, again, I'll bring it home. It's like in a family setup. Me, because I fail to manage my affairs, I go and borrow from all the financial institutions. My salary is like 5,000 kwacha. Okay. Then I borrow from Finca, from Bayport, from the banks. And then at the end of the day, I'm owing my monthly costs of those borrowings maybe comes to about 7,000 or 10,000, which is more than my earning, which is 5,000. So I get into that situation. And then you guys are my family members, and you realize that I now can't think properly because my family can't function because I'm owing a lot of money. And then you guys, who are my family, come together and say, let's help our brother so that he can get out of this debt. And when you come to help me, you put up that money and say, this money we are going to put up for you, but you are going to pay back. We're going to help you pay all those, and then we'll give you one consolidated loan facility, which you will be able to pay to us. So when you do that, you help me. Okay. You settle that debt for me. What? Obviously, you put conditions. Okay. After you have settled that, you don't want to see certain things that a certain lifestyle. I shouldn't lead an extravagant lifestyle, so that I can be able to pay you back. Okay. So that's the kind of arrangement with the IMF. The IMF doesn't come because you are doing well. Okay. The IMF only comes because, as a country, you have failed to manage your economic affairs properly. Okay. You have overborrowed, and you get to the IMF because you have no choice. And when they come in with their conditionalities, which we may not like, but it's because we failed to, in the first place, we failed to manage our own affairs as a nation. That's why we are now asking for help from the IMF. And personally and professionally, I would say IMF deal, it's a good, it will really take the pressure off the treasury, take the pressure off our economy, and it will give us some room to breathe as an economy and be able to function, because right now we are paying the cost of debt that we are paying is quite high, and that's why we are defaulting. But with the IMF deal, we get to have some external funding, then we pay off those debts and have room to function as an economy, and of course a longer period of repayment. Okay, now the UPND government administration has announced that it will borrow about $5 million United States dollars in its first budget.
this will push the external stock of debt to about 21 billion United States dollars. Would you say this is the right thing to do by the government?
All right. Borrowing additional $5 billion.
Yeah.
So, like I was explaining with, I think this money most likely, if not definitely, it is going to come from the IMF.
Exactly.
Because I think the UPND government, I think Dr. Mzokotwane has been engaging with the IMF, and I think we should be able to get some form of movement before the end of this month. He had promised, I think when he held the first meeting with the IMF, that there is definitely going to come up with something, maybe working in progress by the end of November. So what we expect is that today is 20th, yeah, so we expect probably in the next few days that the Minister of Finance should announce that the progress that he has made in terms of the negotiations with the IMF. Of course, maybe negotiations will go further up to somewhere 2022. That's when maybe we can have a finalized deal. But like I was saying, the additional $5 billion that we will need to borrow, which will in the short term finance part of the 2022 budget, and in the long term be able to create a breather so that as an economy we can function. We definitely need it because we need to, when IMF comes in, right now the way we are viewed by the international business community is that we are this country which can't manage their own funds properly.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have IMF as big brother coming in to say, no, you know what, we are standing by this brother of ours who's not doing so well, and we are going to help him manage their affairs so that they can be able to pay off their debts and not be so extravagant in terms of how they live their lifestyle. So it's a same arrangement with the IMF. So IMF comes in to bring credibility to us. Of course, it's not the best solution. I want to make that clear. IMF deals are not the best, but under the given circumstances, we have no choice but to get that. And hopefully we don't in future get to a position where we have to go to the IMF. It's because we are not managing our affairs. So I hope and pray that we can be able to manage our own affairs so that we don't need to go to the IMF.
Do you think there's hope in the new government that we'll be able to see this change of managing our own affairs as a country?
Yeah, definitely I would say there's 101% hope that it's going to be improvement in terms of how the affairs of the country are managed. I mean, that's why there was change of government, because we, the Zambian people, felt that the way the previous regime managed wasn't good enough, and that's why we changed. So we are very hopeful that with the new government, there will be definitely some prudence in terms of how we spend, how we generate the resources, especially on the expenditure part, because generating the resources, I'll tell you that we do generate a lot of resources. Like as at September, when the Minister of Finance was presenting the 2021 or 2022 national budget, he did give a budget review of 2021, and up to September, ZIA had projected that they are going to raise about 50 billion kwacha. Is it trillion? But ZIA raised over 77. I think they raised 77.
They exceeded
so
the
they were supposed to raise about 50, but they raised 77. And it is projected that by the end of the year, as a country, from tax revenue and non-tax revenue, we are going to raise about 98 billion kwacha. This is against a budget of about, I think, in the range of 70. That's what we budgeted, but we have exceeded by over 20 or 30 billion kwacha. So we do raise the money, but the problem comes in with our expenditure. We are extravagant. We don't spend according to what we earn, and that's why we time and again find ourselves in a situation where we have a budget deficit. So we need prudence in terms of how we spend, again I'll bring it home. If you earn 5,000 kwacha, you shouldn't spend 12,000 kwacha unless you have got external sources of income where you are going to earn the extra 7,000 kwacha that you are going to spend. But as an look, if we were very prudent, if we budgeted that we're going to spend 70 billion kwacha, and then we raise in excess of 98 billion, then we should be very okay. We should have a very big budget surplus. But instead, we have a budget deficit. So, by the way, the deficit was so high. It is expected to be so high because we are expected to spend about 134 billion against the projected. The budget for last year was about 119 billion. So we have a lot of excess.
Excess.
So it's a discipline. We get to a point where we raise money, but we don't. We spend in excess of what we raise. So we need from this government. I hope that we are going to reach a situation where there will be prudence. If you say you earn 10,000 kwacha, spend 10,000 kwacha. If you are going to spend excess, there should be justification.
Okay.
Somebody should explain why they are spending that extra 1,000 kwacha.
Okay.
Or you spend within what you earn, which is the ideal situation.
Mr. Mwape has raised a very important point there. Even in our homes, I think this also applies. You go for shopping, your budget is 2,000, but because there are so many beautiful things in the mall, you
especially ladies, so you know you would want to spend more and more
than you budgeted, and what you discover is that at the end of the day, you have a deficit because the money that you didn't budget for has been used. And Mr. Mwape is saying there is need for prudent utilization of the resources. Stick to your budget, ladies. Don't get tempted that beautiful lipstick
Brazilian hair
somewhere. Oh yeah, you know
exactly.
Yes, don't get tempted to spend more than you have budgeted for. This is the emphasis that Mr. Mwape has made. And the question that I would like to ask is, the money that government has proposed to spend, what sectors do you think it should be invested into?
I would want to just look at the budget itself. And I know where from the budget we can see that from the 172 billion, or almost 173 billion kwacha, which is the budget for 2022, government I've seen from the budget that the money, majority part of the money is going to go in the general public services, where there is debt management and ABCD. Debt management is not productive. It's not productive, and when you pay your creditors, that's a non-productive area.
Yes, that's a non-productive, yeah.
Of course, by the time when you borrowed, you should have spent it on productive areas. But at the time you are paying back, it's not productive. So from when we look at the economic affairs, I think there we have about 19% of the budget, and I expect that from this the economic affairs, that's where we should concentrate. If we are going to borrow money, this budget is the 2022 budget is financed like there's about 100 billion kwacha, which is going to be raised from internal generated revenue, that is tax and non-tax income, and then we have about 70 billion, which we are going to borrow. So when we borrow that kind of money, my expectation is that this money shouldn't go in areas where it's not non-productive. We are supposed to spend this money in the productive sectors, where we are talking about the economic affairs. The theme of the budget in 2022 was jobs, economic growth. So when we look at that, what we expect is that if you want to create employment, if you want to create economic growth, you are supposed to spend the money especially on growing the manufacturing industry. So my expectation is that the money that will be borrowed should be spent on the productive sectors of the economy, productive areas. Let's make sure that we have a functional manufacturing and value addition sector, so that, because when you are manufacturing, when you are doing value addition to your products, what that means is that you are going to create employment along the value chain. So we are largely a consumptive economy. That narrative has to change. We have to make sure that we get into a point, into a position where we are very, very productive, so that we stop importing everything that we consume in this economy. So my expectation is that there should be a lot of funds spent in the productive areas, so that we can grow the economy, create employment, which is very, very important and cardinal for young people. And I'm happy that there's relative growth, there's relative change. If we look at the 2021 national budget as regards areas of empowerment, which really drives a lot of economic development, from the 2021 budget, there was about 266 billion kwacha, which was allocated, million kwacha, which was allocated towards youth empowerment. But in this budget, we have seen that within the CDF, which is about 3 billion kwacha, the allocation for youths has grown from 266 to about 800, to over 800. So that's massive growth, and which is, if it's materialized, we expect that there should be a lot of growth in the productive areas and sectors of our economy.
Okay, that is interesting. Okay, so at this point, we're going to look at the current exchange rates that we have before we progress with the interview. I don't know if my production team is ready. Okay, so the US dollar is buying at 17 kwacha, 14 ngwe, and selling at 17 kwacha, 76 ngwe, and the euro is buying at 19 kwacha, 71 ngwe, and selling at 20 kwacha, 10 ngwe. The British pound is buying at 23 kwacha, 49 ngwe, and selling at 23 kwacha, 95 ngwe. And the rand is selling at 1 kwacha, 1 ngwe, and selling at 1 kwacha, 14 ngwe. Okay, thank you so much. So to progress with our discussion, government received about 1.3 billion from the special drawing rights under the IMF, which government has proposed that part of those resources will be used for the recruitment of teachers, for the recruitment of nurses, and other things. Would you say the resources have been channeled towards the right direction?
The SDR, special drawing rights, I would, in a nutshell, say yes, the money is being spent on the right things, because you know, when you talk about employing teachers, employing nurses, let me start with the health sector. I think there's supposed to be about 11,700 health workers who are supposed to be recruited, and then also there's supposed to be in excess of about 30,000 teachers which are supposed to be recruited. Look, if you are not okay as an individual, you are sick, we can't even be here. Okay. You understand? So if we are sick and we are not here, it means that there is no production here, isn't it?
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, so when you spend on the health sector, some people will say, no, this is not good, it's not, you're not spending on the right things. But we have a country where the health sector has been faced with a huge pandemic of COVID-19. Yeah. And there's a big shortfall in terms of health workers. So if you want to recruit more health workers so that they can save lives, and those lives are going to be productive in the economy, then I would say that that's a good area to spend on. Because if you spend, if people are sick, the economy can be productive. So on the health sector, that's good. I mean, when you spend there, employ them, ultimately those people will also pay income tax to the government. They'll pay income tax, they'll pay value-added tax. It's a whole lot of value chain, and I mean, the more people you have in employment, the more economic activity happens.
Okay.
Also, the education sector, 30,000 teachers to be employed. If you didn't go to school, if you and me, you didn't go to school, we'll probably be sitting in a hut somewhere in the village, or by now we would have been in the bush. So it's spending on education, health. Those are important areas to spend on, because you want to create human resource.
Okay.
And human resource is the very, very integral component of economic development. Without human resource, you are not going to develop. So I would say the 1.3. I know that it won't only be spent on employment; it will be spent on other areas.
Okay.
But I would say spending part of it on the recruitment is a good thing.
Okay. I know we have, in the previous regime, we have seen youth empowerment funds being mismanaged at some point. Do you think, going forward as a nation, do we want to see this if we were to develop as a country?
Yeah, so that actually is very, very critical. Like I touched on earlier on. You know, I share a belief that real economic growth will only come in this country and indeed in Africa when we ourselves as indigenous Africans and Zambians are the ones who are driving it. So because of historical issues, we are predominantly disadvantaged when it comes to participating in the economic activities. So you find that if I want to start a business, me as Msonda, I don't have capital. And if somebody who comes from the Western economies, they come here, they already given capital by their governments, which makes it difficult for me to compete with them. The people from China, when they come here, they are given capital which is interest free. Okay. And me, when I want to go and borrow, already there's a lot of high interest rate which I can't manage to pay, and there are a lot of bottlenecks for me to borrow that money. So eventually my small business will suffer, and the business of the foreigner will thrive. But what happens when the business of the foreigner thrives is that they get the profits. The money that we pay, we give them as we are buying their commodities. We give them, they take them out of this country, they externalize them to their countries of origin, the profits, and there is very little reinvestment in the economy. And what happens is that we remain at the same point. But if me as an indigenous Zambian, I have my business is thriving, what I do is that I reinvest in my business here, because the profits I make, they don't leave this country. I reinvest them here, and they remain here, and the economy grows. So when I look at youth empowerment, and particularly this year, I look at the Ministry of SME. In the budget, we have empowerment funds for SMEs to a tune of 350 million kwacha. This is impressive for me, because I also look at the 800, which is also for youths. These funds, they need to be prudently utilized. Right now, what is happening is that the institutions that are managing empowerment funds, they are not very transparent.
Okay, you can just hold your thought. We have a caller. Hello?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling you from Mumbai.
Can you kindly tell us your name and your contribution?
My name is Bala Mwila.
Okay, Mr. Mwila, go ahead with your contribution.
First of all, I want to state that I'm not an economist. Then second, I do not want to say whether the money we borrowed or the money with the SDR, money we got, is being properly paid or not. I just want to leave a thought with you and Mr. Mwambe, and hope you can classify that. I have no problem with employing teachers, and I have no problem with employing health workers. But here is the scenario. If we're going to base the employment of either of these two categories of very important sectors of our economy on borrowed money, going forward, how are we going to sustain that?
Okay, sir, thank you. Are you done with your question?
That's the question that I have. Are we going to borrow again in order for us to continue and invest? Because they will be on the government payroll. And once you increase the number of government workers, it means you also increase the monthly paycheck that the government prepares to pay its employees, the civil servants. So where would that money come from? The health sector is a very special sector. On the other hand, probably we can extrapolate further our discussions around it, because in terms of production, it's 24/7, because the health person is the only who is productive. So maybe there we can put some question marks, but still my question that I posed earlier on stands. But let's go to the education sector. How are we going to, or proposing going forward when we increase the teachers, how are we going to deal with the graduates? Because even right now, we have a huge backlog of unemployed graduates. So we can increase the teachers when the other, on one part of the equation. On the other part of the equation, we are not doing anything about it. How are we going to absorb the more people that will graduate from schools, universities, colleges in that regard? Because in Zambia, we are only taught to be a worker. We are not taught on how to start entrepreneurs, companies, industries. This is for the foreigners. When you look at our policy, every government leader, they plan out to go and quote FDI. They don't look at how we can have our own population generate companies, industries that will absorb this huge backlog of graduates. Those are the thoughts that I wanted to leave you with, so that you can pick them up and try to educate and try to understand these things and as we move forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mwila, for your contribution.
Okay, Mr. Mwila has raised a very important point. So, in just concluding for the discussion of the date and the matter that is brought up, Sir, Mr. Msonda, what would be your comment, even as we conclude?
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwila, for bringing out very important points, which is how does government sustain these new employees that
I know, because it will be a huge list for government to start paying these people.
Definitely, that's about 40. It will be about 41,000 in excess of the current civil service. So, like I indicated earlier, my expectation is that government won't spend the SDR on just employment, on employment of the civil service. The expectation is that, like it has been indicated, I think even the theme of the budget I stated earlier, that the Minister of Finance did indicate that they are focusing on growing the economy. So we are moving from an era which spent most of the funds on relatively not direct productive sectors. The previous government spent on infrastructure. Of course, infrastructure is connected to development, but it's not, in terms of manufacturing, it's related there, because before you start the production of where we are in this studio. Before we could even sit here, there had to be infrastructure development. This building was constructed, and then after that infrastructure development, now we move into production. So we are producing this program because the infrastructure was first laid out. So our expectation and what the government has indicated, what the ministers are talking about, is that now we are moving from an era of spending on infrastructure, but rather now focusing on value addition, industrialization. Part of the SDR, and of course the SDR will just form part of the income that government is going to earn in the year 2022. So that money will be part of it will be used to spend on recruitment, but the majority of the money that government is going to raise in the 2022 budget through borrowing as well as taxes and grants. My expectation and the expectation of average Zambian is that we should spend that money in the productive sectors, value addition to agricultural products, value addition to the products of mining, so that we can grow. The minister has indicated that the mining from copper production, we want to grow from the current production of 800,000 metric tons to about 3 million metric tons of copper in the next 10 years. So that's what we expect. There should be growth in those sectors so that the people that we employ can be paid from the money that we're going to raise from being productive as an economy.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we are hopeful that one day we'll get the Minister of Finance to come on the show and answer some of these important questions, just like the way Mr. Msondas answered it. That was brilliant. I hope our viewer is satisfied with that comment. So for now, we go for a short break.
Camnet TV is here to entertain, educate and inform you. Catch Rise and Thrive at 07:30 hours every Saturday. Fresh and new praise and worship comes Monday to Friday at 8 hours. Kids need to be glued to the TV every weekday at 09 hours for their favorite cartoons. Off the pitch with the boys as they talk about sport on Saturdays at 09:30 hours.
Remember, we are also here to entertain you with our different varieties of movies every weekday at 10 hours. Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa with Healing Word Ministries International Church live sermon every Sunday at 10 hours.
Katamanda brings to you another journey of gospel ministers on Saturdays at 10:30 hours. The verdict comes to your screens at 17:45 hours. Join the Revival Harvest Church every Sunday at 18:30 hours.
Every Monday to Saturday, join us on the news desk at 12 hours as we bring to you the midday news, and at 19:30 hours Central African time every day for the main bulletin.
The ministry with Pastor Moses Chuluwa comes every Friday at 20:45 hours. On Mondays, it's your favorite national matters at 20:45 hours.
Wednesday and Thursday, Pastor Victoria and Moses Chuluwa are on Partnership of Greatness with different spiritual teachings at 20:45 hours.
And Frank on Camnet comes to your screen every Tuesday at 20:45 hours.
Camnet TV, not just another channel.
Africa is rising to a new dawn of integrity and accountability. Are you tired of being swindled or buying fake or illegal properties? Would you like to sell or buy genuine property? Would you like to list your property on both local and international market? Don't waste your time. Call the professionals, the SGK Properties on +260 762 166 018. SGK Properties. Your business assurance is our priority.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned. And we have been joined by Mr. Innocent Kolala, who's going to help us discuss the Constituency Development Fund that was increased from 1.6 million, the previous government was given to for CDF,
yes.
25.7 million. We know this topic has brought a lot of controversy.
That's a huge difference, I must say.
Yes, it has brought a lot of controversy from other political parties and stakeholders who are raising concerns to say, I don't think we have the capacities.
Looking at our financial status as a country right now.
And also the fact that in these constituencies, we don't have the right person to run with these resources. So, Mr. Kolala, Constituency Development Fund increase, what would be your comment?
Thank you so much, and listeners out there. Those who are watching us from all places. The Constituency Development Fund is an important fund because it's a fund which is for the people themselves. I think if you have seen the current government, I think the current government really wants to actualize decentralization because I can cite a practical example or a saying in Bemba. Yes, we always use an idiom that meaning a person who is carrying a bag of salt, the one who is going to tell how heavy that bag of salt is. Similarly, there is another saying which says, there is a mpundu tree, but then those who sit under the tree are the ones who are going to tell or to give you an account how many fruits have dropped down from the very tree. Those who are seated under the tree. And I believe this is one important factor which I think the current government has thought through. Previous governments, they have tried in trying to ensure that I think they propagate the issue of decentralization. But you cannot decentralize, I think, the functions without decentralizing the resources. So resources are very, very important. Yes, similarly, we can cite of the three arms of government, for example. We have, of course, the executive, we have the judiciary, and we have, of course, the parliament, which is the yes. Now, when you look in terms of the resources, you find that executive, it has its own resources. Then you find that in terms of appropriation, parliament, it has its own resources. But the judiciary, it depends on the executive. And because of that, I think in terms of it being the way it is known, that is supposed to be autonomous, it becomes very difficult because it is not decentralized with the issue of resources, or it's not autonomy even in terms of the use of the resources. These are some of the issues which we have always talked about and advocated for. Maybe with the coming of this government, I think they will think through those lines. So similarly, even on this matter, we saw that in the previous government, of course, there was an issue of saying, no, there are certain departments which are supposed to move from central government and be taken to the local authority. Because the local authorities are the ones who deals with the local issues because they interface on a daily basis with the people down there. And now the sad part of it is, I think the decentralization could not work out because still the center used to have a lot of authority and powers in those devolved ministries, in those devolved departments. And this is the reason why I think His Excellency, our Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, when he was given the policy direction, when he was opening Parliament, he was very candid on this part, which even led, of course, even the Minister of Finance, when he was presenting his budget, just from the theme of the budget itself, he started with the issue of growth. That, of course, the most important issue is we need to rebuild the economy of this country. We need to grow the economy of this country. When the economy of this country is grown, then we need to ensure that we provide jobs. That is growth, then jobs, and at the end of it all, we need to ensure that we take the development closer to the people themselves. So there are three things which this government has realized to be very, very important. We need to grow the economy. Then we need to provide jobs. And finally, we need to ensure that whichever activities which are taking place should not concentrate at the center, but has to go down to the locals themselves. Let them decide what they want to use the money for. Let them decide how they want to develop themselves. It becomes very difficult, my sister and the reasoners out there. Someone, for example, who is in Sinazeze, who understands the problem of the Sinazongwe people, the Mamba people there, then someone from Lusaka make a decision on behalf of the people who are in Sinazeze, the people who are in Kaputa, or the people who are in Chavuma. It becomes very, very, very difficult because they don't understand what they go through. They don't understand the terrain of their of the place where they stay. And that's the reason why they realize, this government, that the best way to go is to ensure that the only money which is very easily accessed on time and by the people themselves is the Constituency Development Fund. Why Constituency Development Fund? The Constituency Development Fund, going by the Constituency Development Fund Act number 2 of the year 2018, is very, very clear. It has given, the authority to the ward people. That is the ward development committees. The ward development committees comprises of the people who stay within the ward, which includes even the councillor, to identify the projects which they feel can help them accelerate development or alleviate the problems which they undergo within those areas. Then, for example, in most areas, most rural areas, the challenges which they mostly are faced with, one, the bridges, those small bridges, maybe they are worn out. Then talk of course, the feeder roads. Maybe they could have been part. Talk of course, the schools. Talk of the health facilities. Maybe the distance is far where they access the health services. You talk of even people who are supposed to supported to go to school. It is very sad at times. You go in the village, you find someone has 6 points, has 5 points, but because has no support, is just in the village. But the locals themselves, they'll be able to identify, to say, no, this child indeed requires to accelerate or to develop himself in terms of the schools. And that's the reason why this government said the best money which is supposed to be utilized for most of such areas, it's supposed to be the Constituency Development Fund. Why? The councillor has an interest of the people he represents or she represents. Yes. The member of parliament has got interest, the people he or she represents. And even the community around there, they have got interest among themselves. So let's ensure that we push these resources which was helping out previously, for example.
Okay, we have a caller. So sorry for cutting you. Hello, good morning, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Pardon?
My name is
so we can't get you. Your name is? Oh, Mr. Msonda.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're calling us from where?
Calling from
From where? Okay, thank you so much for calling us. Can you go ahead with your contribution?
Just one contribution that I wanted to put in on the UPA reform, the this making of the materials for the youth, I think that's way of me. Because the time giving people money around when they are living in the houses, this time becomes the best way to bring the sectors of money. I think there is need for us to educate people. Because other people are motivated and the government will see the fact that they will do this. They know that that money will be over the app. But by the end of the day, if other people will do, no, we need this for the party, and if the party has given us this much, they'll just say, no, that is better to have this much by the end of the day. And so the people who need to follow up on what they are doing, the money has already been so. On the other hand, the government will just take it away. So that's it. For government, it's very important and need to use on how to spend those money. Because like there were still very Western clothes. It's just the people who are in the party, in the state, that are going about thinking people to say, no, this is how this is how to do money. When they know that they don't know that they are going to get they do not use it. So on the right, I've seen that the government should assist in when people work that business that is so that it's better to ask the youth. Not that people who are from the back, they can't do anything that is encouraging to the youth. The only thing that they are doing as the youth is that government is giving us money. And people that's why they get more like they came back to voting in their too far.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for the contribution.
Actually, just picking up from what my brother Mr. Msonda from Western Province has highly highlighted there, I think that's the reason why this able government it has decided even to create a ministry just responsible for SMEs, as unlike a situation where people, of course, in the previous we saw that they were being issued with a lot of money, who had even no plan at all. And what were they doing? They just started flashing such money. Yes, at times you could even see them.
Social media.
Yes, on the social media. No, this is the modern car that is this is not what. And you know, they were just buying vehicles for showing off. Sure. They were just building houses for showing off, and not ideally ensuring that they add to the economy of this country. And that's the reason why I think this government is very steady on that part. They want to ensure that each and every resource which is generated into this country, I think it is channeled to a good use, so that we grow the economy. I think it's a very genuine concern, because that was seen in the previous regime. Yes, where of course money was just being thrown everywhere. And as we are talking about even the issue of the Constituency Development Fund, these are some of the issues which have been brought down to the local people, because part of this money, the 25.7 million, it will be used to support the youth. It will be used to support the women. It will be used, of course, to support those children who are challenged in terms of accessing schools. Those, for example, in the boarding school who are supposed to pay boarding fees. Of course, we are grateful that, of course, they have removed the issues of the school fees. They have removed the issues of course, PTA fees and all those issues. But of course, in terms of boarding fee, because they need to feed, so I think they need to contribute something. And those who might have such challenges, definitely, the Constituency Development Fund is supposed to come in, going by the guideline which the Minister of Finance gave as he was presenting his budget. And in addition to that, this very Constituency Development Fund, we are told to say, of course, it will be used mainly in ensuring that those small bridges, then the feeder roads, the schools, then you talk of the health facilities, assisting, of course, those women and youth empowerment, all those issues, they'll be using the same constituency development fund,
when it comes
which is very, very interesting to me. Very, very, very interesting. But now look here. I have been an advocate of one important thing. It's a very, very good thing and fantastic thing which the government has thought to bring back, I think, the power to the people themselves, because power is vested in the hands of the people as espoused by our Zambian constitution. But now, the biggest problem which I have on the decentralization of this 25.7 million is a issue of the same Constituency Development Fund Act number 2 of 2018, where it has given a lot of powers to a member of parliament to constitute a constituency development committee. Remember, when the wards, they have come up with projects, what are they going to do? They are going to send to the constituency development committee, who are now going to prioritize the projects. For example, here we have got about in Lusaka, for example, we may have maybe 20 wards. It's just an example. You have 20 wards in one constituency. So what will happen is each ward will have its own priorities. And for example, if each ward had the priorities of 10 priorities, we multiply that by 20, you are going to have about 200 priorities. Now you find that the monies, it will only maybe require 50 priorities. Now how is this committee, which is constituted at the constituency, going to know to say indeed the priority for this year will be A, B, C, D. And this is where now we are having difficulties in that the Constituency Development Committee is mainly heavy to the member of parliament side, because the law stipulates that one, the member of parliament will be a member of the Constituency Development Committee, one. Then two, a member of parliament is going to appoint the chairperson of a Constituency Development Committee. Then three, a member of parliament is going to appoint two people from the community. For example, Lusaka constituency, you look, if there are about 20 wards, for example, and a lot of communities, is going to identify two people whom he is going to appoint to be sitting in this Constituency Development Committee. Thirdly, this member of parliament is going to appoint one person from civil society organizations. How many civil society organizations do we have, for example, in Lusaka Central? So it will be up to this member of parliament to decide which civil society he or she wants to bring in this Constituency Development Committee. Fourthly, this member of parliament, you and I and the rest Zambian, through the act, we have given him authority to appoint one person from religious organization. How many churches do we have? How many religions do we have? We have Christians, we have Hinduism, we have what? All those who are in here, we have Pentecostals, we have Catholics, we have SDAs, we have the Jehovah's Witnesses. Or from all those, only one person this person is going to appoint to be sitting in this Constituency Development Committee. And lastly, you and I and the rest Zambians, we have given this member of parliament to appoint at least 7 councillors to be sitting there. The only inclusion which we have put in the act is that the traditional leaders, if in this area we have traditional leaders, they are going to nominate themselves 2 people who will be sitting in this committee, and at least 3 council representatives who will be representing plan, who will be representing works, who will be representing finance, who will be sitting there. But these people from the local authority, they will have no voice to make decision, meaning there will be only 2 people outside those who have been appointed by a member of parliament who have a voice, maybe a different voice, those who are nominated by the traditional leaders, but the rest are being appointed by a member of parliament. So now you know what will happen. What will happen, for example, In most cases, these members of parliament, yes, we have given them authority, we have given them power, we have a lot of trust in them. That's the reason why we gave them the authority to be governing on our behalf as espoused under Article 61, because we are the ones who are supposed to be in parliament. But we have said we are going to round up competent men, honest men and women who are going to be representing us as espoused under Article 62 of our constitution. And with that, of course, they are human. Definitely you find that the government of his able leadership of His Excellency, our Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, he has a policy direction where you want to take this country. You find that, and he has sent this 25.7 million in this constituency, for example, which is dominated by an opposition. And by nature of an opposition, especially in Africa, you know, nature of an opposition is fighting, to frustrate the efforts of the ruling government, which is very, very unfortunate, because opposition is supposed to be seen as working in collaboration with the ruling political party, because an opposition political party is a government in waiting. Now, if you are a government in waiting, why should you try by all means to frustrate the government in power? Or do you want also, when you start running the country, that the opposition should come and frustrate you? The answer is no.
They call it checks and balance.
Yes, of course, we are talking about the genuine checks and balance, and that's the reason why, of course, these political parties are there. The genuine checks and balances, my sister, is where, for example, this government has said, we are going to put the road here. By the year 2021 or 2022, then the opposition, they are supposed to remind their colleagues to say, here, look here, you promised the Zambian people that you are going to put this road by this. Then the ruling political party might even bring up some of the challenges. Now we are having the challenges of BCD in terms of resources. Then it is incumbent upon now the opposition even to give the proposals on how they are supposed to generate such resources, such that if it means failing, let that government fail by themselves, as unlike because of throwing missiles, because of throwing this and so mad against each other in fighting. That should not be the case. And what normally we see, as Elia said, on the Constituency Development Committee, you find that some members of parliament, they forgo or they forget about the policy direction of the ruling political party or the ruling government. What do they want? They want now to champion their agenda away from the agenda of the governing government, which is very, very unfortunate. And in terms of the appointment, what do? It's appeasement appointment, where they only appoint maybe those people who supported them to reach where they are. You find that from the community, the entire community, maybe someone who funded them, who assisted them with the vehicle, no, this is the only way of rewarding you. You know, you find even this time around, even in the
now,
religion.
Mr. Kalala,
yes,
when it comes to issue of funds mismanagement, this is something that we have dealt for so long as a country. And looking at how much has been allocated to the CDF, what mechanism do you think government can put in to ensure that the funds for this are not mismanaged? And
that's the reason why I'm even trying to drive to that. The entry point is to ensure that we have a constituency development committee which is well balanced. In this case, for example, we have said some of the functions which were being undertaken at the center has been dropped now to be undertaken by the Constituency Development Fund. If, for example, the activities which Ministry of Health were supposed to be undertaking, you have taken to the Constituency Development Committee. Then those which were supposed to be undertaken by education, by the community, and these other agriculture have been taken to this. Why not allow the experts from these ministries to be part and parcel of this Constituency Development Committee? And that can only be done, my sisters, when, for example, we amend the Constituency Development Committee Fund, the Constituency Committee Fund Act, number 2 of the year 2018, by allowing, for example, instead of saying the MP will appoint ABCD, you just say the Constituency Development Committee will comprise or constitute maybe a representative from Ministry of Health, a representative from Education, a representative from Agriculture, a representative from such that when you ask for a recommendation from this ministry, they will know which office or which individual is going to add value in as they will be making decisions. Because the people who are superintending on health are health experts and not those people whom you have rounded up. The people who are very competent on agriculture issues are agriculturists. We have, of course, the people who are trained to do that. These are the people you put there. Similarly, community, similarly with education. How is these people, for example, who are normally being appointed, going to understand indeed the genuineness of a child who is supposed to be sponsored, for example? But if you put someone from Ministry of Education who will be able to understand, to say yes, this and so forth, and with that, I think there will be that ownership from my ministry. I think this is what we are supposed to champion. Yes, from this department, this is what we are supposed to champion. As unlike leaving it in the manner it is, I still appeal to His Excellency, our Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. The thought and the plan is fantastic, is excellent. But let them relook on the issue of those who are supposed to be superintending on these funds in terms of the Constituency Development Committee, by allowing our able Minister of Local Government, Mr. Garin Kombo, I think, to take a bill to Parliament to go and ensure that they amend especially that part and include also some of these functions which have been added on the use of the Constituency Development Committee. And it's not fund, and it's not too late. Before these monies are disbursed next year, we still have next month, and the parliamentarians, they are still sitting. They can push in the amendment bill such that I think it answers with this government's policy and of course the direction where they want to take this country in trying to ensure that they take development closer to the people themselves, who are the owners of the authority or the power. Then coming to your question, my sister, how do you expect that they are going to ensure that these resources are safeguarded in terms of abuse? Once again, may I take this opportunity again to thank, I think, the current government. I think on the issue of corruption, they have sounded a very nice tone. And we are able even to see, I think, even the leaders themselves, those who have been appointed, they know the kind of administration they are joining. Every time when His Excellency is appointing leaders, he always reminds them and he always tells them, it's better you are not even in this government. If you are coming to this government so that you can come and fatten your pockets and your berries, this is not the type of government, because this government is for the people. They have come to grow the economy. They have come to create the jobs. They have come to ensure that every distribution of these resources are equal. Equitably, equally distribution of resources. Not only few individuals are supposed to benefit out of this. So what we are expecting is to ensure that they enhance, one, I think, the security wing. Then two, they enhance, of course, the investigation wings, and of course we talk of the DEC, we talk of the Anti-Corruption Commission. Of course, the way he has come out of ensuring that he leaves this institution to be operating on their own professionally. That's the way to go, without government interference. From there, we have seen, of course, some of those arrests which we are able to see, and not only that, look at just 2-3 days ago, when we saw a permanent secretary from Ministry of Youth, Sports and Child Development, when he was paraded by the PAC, Parliamentary Accounts Committee. It was very embarrassing. Come on. A lot of where the Auditor General, they are saying, no, in their report when they went to conduct the audit, they were told there were 23 buses. Then the permanent secretary's report says there are 25 buses. Then the parliamentarians ask, where are the 2 buses? Then this this permanent secretary becomes shocked. Then if it's a controlling officer cannot know the number of the bus, and we are talking about 25 and 23. Now, how about all such huge resources which were distributed by, come on,
maybe you can just wind up in 1 minute time. Okay, we can be talking.
We need to bring Mr. Kola back on the show and give him enough time. So just keep tuned to the breakfast show. We are going to have Mr. Kola back on the show so that we can talk more on the issue of the Constituency Development Fund. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Prudence and my co-host Miriam Kaimba, and our guest was Mr. Innocent Kolala. For now, pleasant morning.